Welcome back to the Darts with Jack podcast, everybody. My name is Jack, and I'm today joined by somebody who I'm sure you'll seen on your TVs over the past 3 months. It's Dog Lewis Jones, the MC of the darts events on TV. How are you doing today, Lewis?
Doing all right, mate. Apart from the weather, I was trying to go out and do a bit of gardening today, but I've been rained off, so I've had a lazy day with the dog.
Yeah, it's a bit of a contrast to last week's heat, isn't it?
I know. To be fair, I was concerned at the O2 about the heat, but it was actually all right in there. It
Yeah,
was,
that's
it
good.
was,
That's
it
good.
wasn't hot at all. Whereas Sheffield the week before was
Oh, I
quite
can
warm.
imagine.
My head started
Mm.
leaking on stage because I was jumping up and down the intervals, getting the crowd
Yeah,
going. Then I had about 30 seconds radio call for her to be back on at Sheffield. So
yeah.
no, it was a brilliant night last week.
Mm. So obviously, people have seen you on TV over the last few months when you stepped into your new role. But obviously, it's a very unique thing. Like, there's not many people who have the talent that you have. So how did you get involved with it? To start? Where did it all come from?
So it all came from it was mentioned a long time ago when I was working for Modus over cool, maybe 12 years ago. It was mentioned back then. It's not something I ever did. And it was a case of that I got a call from Matt Porter, who's the CEO of the PDC and a director of Matchroom. He called me about 2 years ago and said, look, I want someone to come and understudy John. So should John need to do something, or he needed time off, or he was unwell, or he needed a night's break here and there. It was for the longevity of John and me sort of training in the background for
Mm,
when John might would eventually retire. But so up until November 24, I'd never actually done it. I've always been quite, I've always been around darts. I used to help run a lot of exhibitions even after I left Modus. I was still doing
mm,
that. So a lot of it came down to the character and whether it was, something I was very keen on doing, and had to sort of jump in and learn how to do it, and thankfully I had a good sort of period with John,
mm.
maybe a year, just over a year really. I was with John doing it, sort of 13, 14 months. I was sort of shadowing John, and then John retired very, quicker than people would have liked. I mean, I would have
Yeah.
liked to see as much as it's benefited me. I really missed having John there. I
Mm,
mean, John as a character is absolutely incredible. He's probably the funniest bloke I've ever met.
mm.
Um, Thankfully, I did manage to steal a lot of his jokes that I can I managed to phone off. But
Mm.
um, yeah, it's I do miss John having there because it's going to be it's been a difficult thing to transition to quickly,
Yeah.
but I think my improvement has been noted a lot now.
Mm.
Which, like anything, learning to do a job live on television
Oh, yeah.
is very, very difficult to do. But I think I'm quite confident in my own abilities, and that I have improved, and
Yeah.
things have turned for me a bit now.
You mentioned that you used to work with Modus. What was your involvement then? You mentioned that you've been around art. So how did that kind of transition?
So I started working, I think it was 2007 or 2008, that sort of time. I was working for Jason Tame, who's the
Mm,
director of Modus. I was working for him, actually working for his flooring company, and that he was sponsoring James Wade at the time. And then I sort of went to a few events with him, and I'd spent a bit
mm,
of time with Wade. Me and Wade always got on really well. Then he signed Mark Webster, Robert Thornton, and then it became a point where I'd sort of go to the pro tours and just get up with them in the morning, get a taxi over with them or whatever, drive them over to the venue mainly,
mm,
sit with them and just be around them and go out with them in the evenings, go for something to eat after they finish darts, and then wind down or whatever. Become close with Wadey particularly, and very close with Mark Webster, who, I mean, Mark Webster was a witness at my when I got married. He's on the road
mm.
now, but I was very, very close to Mark. So, and then we signed. When Moda signed Vincent van der Voort, or Simon Whitlock, who that's before that, and then I was mainly looking after Simon. Um, okay, when Simon blew up in what 2010, I think he
Yeah,
got to
around
the
then, yeah.
final. He Simon was like the second half artist properly in darts at the time.
Mm,
I was going to exhibitions with him all over the place. We were all over the UK. We were doing tours in Ireland, which I love. I mean, I love Ireland. Ireland's one of my
Mm,
favourite places to go. So I was mainly looking after Simon, driving him, and I was maybe looking after Simon for a few years, and then then Moda signed um, Van Gerwen and Van der Vaart, and then I was doing, I would do bits with them as well. Come very close to Michael and Vincent. Um, yes, it just became like a right hand man, like the dog. Get the dog to do it. It's just a case that it was sort of a right hand man that is, some
mm,
people say a lackey, but it was the case of doing stuff for them. But I've done a lot of stuff with sponsors. I initiated some contact with WD-40 for James for a PR company, and then
mhm,
they end up going to people like VW Commercial Vehicles with some of the on the players' shirts, and
mm,
um, so it wasn't just that. I
yeah.
worked in the office every day as well. We do a lot of the admin for the players as well.
And do you think then having that almost, as you meant, you've had your career in darts, do you think being able to, build up a career, people get to know you, that must have helped when you stepped into your new role over the past year and a bit?
100%. If I didn't have that, I had a good relationship with the PDC because I liaised with the PDC with stuff for the players, and I got on really well with Matt Porter, and I still do. And it was, it's a case of that there's an element of the character there that I got on with everybody. And a lot of people support me when I come back, and particularly at first when I was maybe struggling a little bit at first. There's certain of the nerves of doing it
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
you'd have their arm around you, and people with the PDC as well. So yeah, I was being comfortable with everybody around it, even down to people at Sky like um Brando and Derek and all the people, the floor managers there and some of the directors at Sky. I used to deal with them for interviews for the players. I mean,
Yeah,
going back when I first started, Laura Woods was a runner, and I spent a lot of time with Laura Woods, and she'd come, text me, "Oh, can I get this player?" And I'd sort it out with her. So I had a relationship with a lot with everybody, from production to the meet to the press to the players' managers to security. Yeah, so I particularly knew most people there. I mean, I had a big
mm,
break from it, really, from working as much as I was still involved. I mean, I left in 2016. I would still do exhibitions for MDA and for Modus and things, but I didn't work in darts as such. But I'd go back to events and stuff.
mm,
So I had quite a long break, best part of maybe 9 years, something along
yeah.
those.
And obviously, you get the call to ask if you can deputise for John. You mentioned that John was brilliant to have by your side, but my word, are they big shoes to fill? You're going into somebody
Yeah.
who's been the face, arguably one of the faces of darts.
I've said it quite a lot recently. It's like Chelsea trying to replace Makaleli.
Mm,
I think the roles had to change. Um, Over time, I think I'll build up. In terms of I improve every time I do it. But the roles that are a bit different in terms of that. I go in from the crowd warm up, and then I do the stuff in the breaks as well. Interaction with the crowd, um, and help with the atmosphere there alongside all the dancers as well. Because
yeah.
there's also the other thing, if you see what the dancers do in the break. Um, it's a very high energy atmosphere,
Mm,
and that's what you see, and that's one. The best bit about one of the best bits about the events is, of course, the not just how it's set up and everything that the PDC do. The fans play a major
yeah.
part in creating that atmosphere, and it's important that they're entertained as well, which I think they are.
Yeah, no, I'd completely agree. Um, when you step into those shoes for the first time, what was your kind of first experience of doing one of the big events in your role?
The first time, so the first bits I done was stage two at Minehead, which
Hmm.
even for that was I used to really struggle with the crowd warm ups at first.
Mm,
Not been never done public speaking before. At that point when I went on stage two, I don't think I can remember really ever speaking to a microphone to a crowd. So
yeah,
um, that bit was quite daunting. But the main bit was the match play last year. I'd John had said, why doesn't Lewis do the women's world match play? because it was the quarters and semis and the final. So I found out that at the beginning of the tournament, so I was doing some sort of Roman reporter stuff and stuff and the ad
Mm,
breaks, and then so I'd actually gone home and I came back, um, got my suit and everything, and come back, and then I had a couple of days to sort of rehearse for that. I had to do a screen test with Sky first, which was quite
mm,
daunting because I knew if I was going to trip over myself, they weren't going to let me on. But I done well
yeah.
with that, and then the women's world match play was good, and I was excited by the women's world match play as well because women's darts is got really big as well. I mean, if you
Mm,
look at what Fallon Sherritt's done and what Bo's doing, um, it was a big honour for me to jump in and do that, and that was John McDonald's idea for me to do that, and he really
mm,
helped me out with it.
yeah.
Went for a walk in the morning, but before I went on stage, went through the bits I was going to say. Make sure I kept it simple and um, which it worked well, and then. So that was my first time. I remember my hand sort of shaking when it went live. And then the I first on the main tournament, of course, was I think it was it was the Grand Slam.
Mm,
Because I was at the Grand Prix in Leicester doing the warm ups and doing a few bits there. And then I done the Grand Slam. I think John opened it up, and I think I done maybe 3 days.
mm.
And that went quite well. There was a couple of little errors here and there, but I was told
Which are
before,
understandable.
yeah, and I was told by people that you're going to make mistakes doing this.
Mm,
Some and unfortunately, when you got the spotlight on you as a new person coming in who's come out of nowhere, people
mm,
are right to criticize it, and it's going
mm,
to be. I understand that, and a lot of the criticism I've listened to, and I still do. I still look at some of the criticism on there and think, yeah, they got a point. There's bits I can change, but
mm,
overall, it doesn't. I think I take most of it, try and be as positive as I can with everything, and that's what
mm.
really helped me doing the World Championships. The first time going to the World Championships was, that sort of I've always loved the World Championships, but it's always like when I was looking after the players, you feel a lot of nerves there.
Yeah,
It's a very nervy atmosphere because it's for a lot of money. It's for a big title. Besides the money, it's people. Will be getting into later stage of it. It could mean they get in the Premier League. It could, it makes
yeah,
a big difference to their ranking. So there's a lot of memories that were there for me with that, and there's a lot of energy in the I feel in the actual building of that Ali Pally. It's like darts is embedded in that place.
yeah,
So going up to do that was massive. And like with the worlds for the amount I'd done and the couple of little mistakes I made, I didn't have any massive howlers really at the Worlds. And that was a huge. I mean, because when you look at the viewing figures for that are absolutely
sure.
insane.
Yeah,
And you see it on your social medias how many people are viewing your profiles. It goes up to over 500,000. I think one point up to 900,000 people look at your
yeah,
stuff. So you're aware that people are looking at who you are.
yeah, and that's what I was going to mention. The Worlds, obviously, for you mentioned that you did work at the Grand Slam and the World Match Play, but for the casual darts fan,
Yeah,
the Worlds is going to be the first kind of exposure they
yeah,
get to you. And
yeah.
what a bigger, you can't really get much bigger than the Worlds, can you, for kind of
No,
being the
no.
center stage of darts? So,
And it was the
when,
first time it was £1 million to the winner as well. So,
yeah,
there was a lot with that. And, um, there was a lot going on. And then, of course, since the year before that, the amount of people watching it has exploded. It was huge before, but it's now gone to another universe in terms of how many people watch it because
yeah,
of having Luke Littler there.
mm,
And what he's done has been absolutely amazing. So that was a huge thing, yeah. And of course, people might switch on, going, who's this
who's
guy
it?
coming
Yeah.
on?
And you picked up on it. People have been critical, which I think it's almost natural, I guess, when you have John, who people have seen for so long. They don't
20
they don't
years, yeah,
they don't know any different. So when you come in, you know,
yeah,
how
yeah.
did you expect it? And then when it happened, what was your kind of first reaction to it?
Um, yeah. So when it first up, it was something. When I looked after players, I used to look after a lot of their social media anyway. So you'd see after they'd lost a game or things like you'd see some comment and you think, "Cool, that's a bit harsh." And
Yeah.
some of it, isn't very. Some of it is just abuse. Some of it is people um just voicing what they feel about it. And like I've
Yeah.
said, I don't disagree with some of the criticisms people have had of me. But which had largely just massively changed now. Um, yeah, it's not something it was something I was told, it's maybe stay off it for a bit or whatever. But I mean, anyone that might be a bit egotistical like me is going to watch it.
Mm.
Um, it's your own sort of curiosity that wants to see what people are saying. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was something. It was hard to take some of it. And then you get yourself self-doubt, but there's no bigger critic of me than myself anyway.
Yeah.
Then that's why I think I improve, because I want to do better, and I certainly don't think I'm at a level that John is. But I do
Yeah.
think, like John has said to me, if you can, I think it was at the Premier League, when the Premier League started, he sent me a message saying, if you improved as much as you're improving now in this period of time, think how good you're going to be in 2 years' time. He said,
Mm.
there's a reason why and John has been amazing with that. I still speak to John now. So,
Mm.
yeah, of course, yeah, so you are going to get a bit affected by it. But like I say, as long as I'm involved with it, you're gonna get you are gonna get some criticism. But largely, if you look at it now, it's nowhere near as bad as it was.
Yeah. And how hard is it to find your own style of what you do? Because you have got to bring your own kind of personality to it. The way
Yeah.
you different people announce the players' names, etc. How hard did it come naturally to you, or was it something that you had to develop over a period of time?
First, it was hard. I was probably trying too hard not to be like John. But then also
Mm.
you got the other thing is that is part of that is the job that you're doing, and you can't really reinvent the wheel on it. But there's some, I do things slightly, different to John. I didn't do the champion of the world the same at first. One because I was told not to. Just saying, do that in top when as you get more confidence, and that's really improved now. But I was doing it slightly different. Um, but ultimately, when now I've improved doing it, and you hear the crowd sort of go along with when you're doing it, now the confidence for me to do it now is there, and that has improved a lot because
Mm.
there was other bits like up until it was only probably about halfway through the Premier League I started having Sky then started putting my microphone through my ears so I could actually hear myself a lot better because my hearing's really bad. So once I had it actually go through my through the audio to my ear, I could actually hear myself. That made a massive difference.
Yeah.
And then listening back to it a lot as well. I mean, the more you do it, that's the thing is you're learning to do a job. And I think the improvements I listened over the last, my girlfriend said the other day, she was like, "Cool, you sound really good on that bit when I was playing those a few bits
Mm.
back." So there's bits there where I know what I've improved on. But yeah, the style is does differ from John's. And the good thing about having the Premier League is it's like almost like I've kept it all pretty similar, but that is more because I wanted to focus on my voice a bit more.
Yeah.
And then once you've done that, you can have the confidence to change things about. And then there are bits that I have changed. When I started off for the Premier League final, there's bits there I can't some stats and stuff. But ultimately, John McDonnell was one of the best. He's one of the best. I know he's doing it now. It's hard talking about it in the past tense, but
Yeah.
he's one of the best MCs on the planet.
Mm.
You could only probably name a couple of people that pitch arguably be better than him.
Mm.
But John McDonnell to me, he is and always will be the best that's ever happened to darts.
Mm.
He made a massive impact on it, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? What he's done is legendary in what he's done, and that's part of the reason I think he creates atmosphere in darts, which I'm very lucky
Mm.
to have come. And like I say, following on from John, anyone was going to be getting grief, for
Yeah.
doing it. And I don't have to do as much as John does. I don't have to do the bits in Europe. I won't be doing anything for the next month because it's going to be over in you got Copenhagen. I think Jax is doing that, and then of course the World Cup is in Germany. So Phil will be doing that, which is I think that is it is to be the roles are being switched up a bit.
Mm. Um, Well, what I was going to mention then is you, you you mentioned that you changed a bit the style and stuff. How much actual free reign do you get on what you say when you're announcing? Do you get told what to say, or do you get to choose?
But I'll sit down with the guys from the media, particularly um Josh, I mean Joz and and Billy. I've got nicknames for everybody. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna say like Billy the Kid, who's Will Simpson, who does a lot of the Will does a lot of the he just done the draw with Mark Webster and stuff. Will's a really excited in terms of what he's doing. It's nice to have Will about doing stuff. Um and Josh Gorton, who's like in the stats that Josh Gorton knows, is absolutely unbelievable.
Mm,
And then I'll speak to Jamie Banks as well, who's head of broadcast about bits I'm going to do. But a lot of people seem to think I just get there's an auto cue and I read off that. There's no auto cue. You have to remember
yeah.
everything. You got to write it down. You got to go up and you got to stare into a camera. Now you're going to millions of people and remember everything. So
Mm.
there is no auto cue. So
I think
um,
some people find that quite interesting to know because I think a lot of people probably think the job's a lot simpler than it actually is.
mm. It's not. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'll have it written down on I have listen. I have these. I have stuff on there. I have these little things here. So you
Mm,
might see a couple of bits on there. So I have these little bits. I write some bits down on there, and then
yeah.
I'll quickly read it, and then you get told 20 seconds, and I start staring at the camera. It's in my head, but of course you might see. Welcome to the BetMGM Premier League commentary, like or which, and then you got to go into the players bit for the first one, and then you'll switch over to the next camera when you walk down the hockey to the dartboard, and then you'll have another quick glance at it there. Um, Sometimes I get a bit lost because ultimately I am still a darts fan as well, so I love the
Yeah.
walk-ons. I think there's a clip for me when Gezi walked on the other day, which is quite because I love Gezi's walk-on. I love Gezi. He's brilliant. He's just got this explosive
Mm,
um sort of energy that he does, and I love all that, and sometimes I'll be sort of watching Gezi do it now. Like, yeah, oh God, I've got to go to another one now. So yeah,
yeah.
sometimes there is still bits like that where I might get a little bit distracted.
Do you still find it slightly surreal in places then that you are kind of in front of not only the fans that are there, but in the world there is up to a few million people watching it
Yeah,
at home. That must be quite a surreal feeling.
it is. Yeah, it is. You do once you've done it, there's like it's like a big adrenaline rush when you're
Mm,
doing it. And it's like, I'll get back to the hotel and I'll probably sometimes not sleep for 2 or 3 hours or wake up again at 5 o'clock in the morning. And, I always get up early anyway. I normally up about 5:30, 6 in the morning. But you've got to sort of factor in that you do need to sleep a bit more when
yeah.
you've got the days that, the evenings ahead of you. So it's very surreal. It's weird, in fact, when I've done exhibitions, go up and do them, people come and ask you for photos or they know who you are, they know a bit about you. There's that bit that's quite surreal. If someone
Mm,
said to me 2 years ago that would be happening to me, I wouldn't have believed them. So, but yeah, I love every minute of it.
mm.
I'm aware that I've been given a massive opportunity, and I like to think that I'm not taking it for granted. I'm working hard to improve.
Is there an aspect of the job that is your favourite? Because I was there at the Premier League in Liverpool. I saw you at the women's match play. A few events under the Worlds. And the way you hype up the crowd, I think is something which we haven't seen before. I think you are brilliant at it.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
I am.
is there a particular aspect that of the job that you do enjoy more than others at all?
I enjoy all of it. Of course, I love every second that I'm doing all parts of it. There's certainly bits on when you go out with the crowd and every single person the crowd is singing, and it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah,
There's bits there where it's um but like Belfast and Dublin. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant. I went out in Dublin afterwards for a night out, and I think it was me, Luke Humphreys, Van Gogh, with us, and it was just like. So it was such an amazing thing to be when you're around all the fans and stuff,
mm,
and like yeah, when I was in Liverpool, like I went out and I went took out Liverpool. No, during the day I walked around Liverpool, amazing city, and I spoke to quite a few local people that come up. They're obviously going to the darts, and you realise how those bits I find I really enjoy, and
yeah.
like the O2's always been it's a very big venue. There's 16,000 people there on Thursday, and I think they were singing along to Angels, and I was sort of just looking up, and I was just staring. I wasn't just. I stopped talking. I was just looking at. Everyone had a lot of people had their lights and their phones on. I was like, this is insane, though, and it's amazing that we have that. It's a great sort of part of darts culture, of British culture, that when people come together at things like that, it does create an amazing, happy atmosphere,
Mm.
which is just, yeah, it's amazing to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's okay to round off the interview, we're going to do
Yeah.
a couple quick fire questions now.
God, here we go. Okay.
Um, is there a walk on that you find yourself? I know you mentioned Gezi. Is there any other that you kind of find yourself really wanting to join in with in a certain way?
Yeah, obviously Nathan Aspinall's. I love,
Yeah.
and I'll get on. I'd like to be on friends with Nathan. I love watching his one come on. It's the level of the crowd. But a few of the a couple of German players got some quite rocky. I like sort of heavy metal and rock music, and some of the ones where they come on, my feet starts tapping. But yeah, obviously Aspinall's is very very good. James Way's Walken's good. I love that Elton John song. I think brilliant. You're waiting out there sometimes. I think Elton John will have to start rewriting that song sometimes with the length of time way he takes it on
Mm,
there. But he's great value when he's coming onto that, and he's obviously got a lot of time for the fans, so he
yeah.
does his walk on slowly. So yeah, anything like that, and when they come on and um yeah, Van Gerwen's one that I've always enjoyed. John really done amazing with Van Gerwen's call when he done his. So yeah, it's hard. I'd actually put one down. It would. So it wasn't a quick fire answer. I'd say it's probably yeah. Nathan Aspinall, of course, is,
Yeah.
is is definitely up there.
Um, if you could pair up and do a pairs tournament with any PDC pro, who'd you choose? Doesn't have to be based on their actual darting ability, but who do you think would be fun to do a tournament with?
Probably Joe Cullen.
My favorite
But
player.
it's honestly, well, I have such a laugh with Joe Cullen. He's one of the funniest blokes you'll ever meet, Joe Cullen.
Mm,
Really, we always sort of rattle off Gavin and Stacey stuff to each other all the time. He walked on stage, I think it might have been maybe plays champ. I can't remember which one it was. He walked on and he's just as soon as he walked on, he's got Natter lights like that to be live on television. I was couldn't hold myself together. So yeah, 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 Joe
Um,
Cullen.
and the question I ask everybody comes on the podcast, and I'll kind of reword it for you. Um, would you rather win, if, let's say, you had a sudden career change and you end up playing the game, would you rather win the World Championship by yourself or the World
Yeah.
Cup of Darts playing alongside John McDonald?
Oh, with John McDonald, 100%. Yeah, definitely World Cup. I'd like see. I actually love. I've always loved the World Cup. Seeing these. It's like super teams, isn't it? It's like you look
Yeah.
at the players that match up, and there's always been a lot of drama with it. So I'm really looking forward to watching the World Cup this year.
Mm,
Actually, so it'd be nice to sit back and enjoy it. I mean, one year maybe I might even go along because I love Germany. So,
mm,
but yeah, it's the World Cup is an amazing tournament. Yeah, so no, 100% definitely be with John McDonald.
mm. Well, thank you very much, Lewis, for giving up your time
Anytime,
to
mate.
come do this interview. It's been really, really informative and I guess a perspective that I've never had on the podcast before, so I massively
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No problem, mate. Anytime, mate. You're doing really well. So brilliant.
Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Thanks, Jack. Take care, mate. Anything you need, let me know.
Thanks, Lewis. Thank you. See you later.